has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
All right, Carver High. All that's left is the Washington Commodes, who allegedly, from multiple sources, you hear Ben Johnson's name, and I've heard it again today. And then the other one I still have always believed would be Dan Quinn in Seattle. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But I think those are the only two jobs left. I have to tell you, Raheem Morris, no offense, swing and a miss. You might as well have kept Art Smith. I mean, what's the difference? And then Callahan, this guy, Canales, whatever his name is. I can't keep track of how bad this is getting. By the second, I don't like anything. The only one that's good is Jim Harbaugh. That's it. That's the only hire that matters. I think these owners have screwed these other hires up nice and juicy.
Yeah, it is pretty perplexing, especially the Raheem Morris thing. And look, there was a lot of people, Scotty, who said Raheem Morris deserved to be a head coach again. He was very young when he had the job in Tampa. He's been in L.A. the last few years. He was in Atlanta before that as a D.C. This is a team that's problem this year was offense, right? They had an offensive head coach who couldn't get the offense right. They had bad quarterback play. They have all these pieces on offense.
Well, what do they do?
Okay. You hire a defensive coach. Doesn't make sense. And I think it's very telling, too. And we've talked about this for the last few days. I mean, they interviewed Belichick twice in person. He came down there twice to talk to Arthur Blank. And clearly, Belichick was not going to go there with Rich McKay hanging over his head. That is clearly what kept Belichick from being in Atlanta with the Falcons. Because you don't want to deal with that.
My buddy told me in Atlanta, Jimmy, just a friend, says to me, McKay and Belichick, it's bad stew. Ain't going to happen. And they think that, McKay's been down there screwing things up for nice and juicy. This guy has been screwing things up down there for a while now. And he gets in the way of Art Blank getting Belichick. In my opinion, that's what happened. And then they end up with Raheem Morris. I've seen it all. Honestly, I've seen it all. I just don't even, I don't care anymore. Have at it. Good luck. You'll still suck.
We welcome in all of our radio affiliates for Coast to Coast on a Thursday. Sirius XM 159 Sports Byline. Good to have you with you. So Seattle and Washington, all that's left, as you mentioned. Could be that Belichick and Vrabel both don't get jobs here this year. Who were both, we thought that absolutely those two guys would get jobs. Now it looks like, that's because I don't think either of them are going to get going to Seattle. There's been nothing with Seattle with Bill Belichick or with Washington.
Well, I'll tell you what. Now listen.
Yeah.
They have had, now, no offense, I don't want to offend anyone. People get so sensitive. But you've heard all this talk, I know you have, about changes to that CBS show and that Fox show. I think what you're seeing is old man Jimmy, old Terry. Honestly, let's just face facts. They're 100. And then they got Gronk standing there, and he's going to go right into that gig. And then on the other side, you've heard about Sims. And you've heard about
and Watt standing there,
and then Watt's standing there. But what I would do right now today is hire Bill Belichick. First of all, that would be a cushy job for Bill in New York to come to New York every Saturday, fly in, stay in the 5-star, and then get up, go to the CBS on 57th, and do the NFL Today. And I'll tell you what. He is unequivocally the best football mind talking about football or storyteller ever. He is the best ever at talking football. He would be utterly sensational on CBS. Meanwhile, they got these guys on there. Oh, my God, could it be any more boring? Honestly.
No.
Honestly, let's just get real. People don't even watch it anymore because it sucks so bad.
I think you're right about this, especially if he's not going to get a gig this year. And you're right. You don't get that side of Bill at the podium on Wednesdays and in the postgame. He doesn't show it. When he's coaching the team and he's in the middle of the season, you're not getting that. You watch all those specials, the 100 greatest players specials, him and Saban sitting on the chairs drinking
Top
whiskey.
10.
He is so insightful, and it is great to listen to him when he actually opens up and talks about the game. And you've said this a lot. They've got guys that have been on that set for a long time. I know you love Cowher, but he's been gone for a long time now, disconnected from this league and the guys that are in this league. And that's just how it is. And Bill isn't. Bill would be coming right off of knowing everyone in the league and knowing all the players, all the teams, all of that stuff. It's a much different
Sims
dynamic.
and Cowher, bye-bye. Like, honestly, yeah. And then they'll never Boomer's too huge with CBS doing TV and radio, the #1 morning show in sports in New York. I love Boom. I'm friends with Boom. That's cool. I'm not going to say nothing bad about nobody. I like Phil Simms, too. I'm just telling you, it's run its course. No one ever wants to admit it. Have you ever watched these shows where they literally, if you watch Fox, there's so many guys on the show, they can't even fit them on the screen. They got like 9 guys analyzing the game. ESPN does the same thing. CBS does the same thing. And what they have is, and I'm right, they have a bunch of guys that are boring and old now and washed. Get a guy like Belichick in there, and it would revolutionize it. He tells better stories than all of them. You don't need 7 guys, 6, 5, 4 to do it. You need 3 guys to do this at most, and especially if one of them's brilliant and tells the best stories. And someone that has been to 9 Super Bowls and won 6 can sit there and break it down for you. Who needs all these fancy dudes laughing all the time, and they're so not funny? I'd rather have Belichick. Right now, today, I'd hire him right now. If I were CBS, I would be on the phone with him right effing now.
I agree. I think since it looks like he's not going to get a job, I would start banging on the door and try to get him in the mix there.
That's over.
Yeah, he's not. He's not at this point. There you go. All right, you did a lot with the Lions and the 49ers and, of course, the Chiefs and the Ravens with Warren this past hour. You'll do a little bit more with Adam Kaplan later this hour. Tomorrow, Scotty, I'll save you. I'll give you Purdy. And actually, guys, can we just do Goff quick? Let's get Goff out of the way today, if we don't mind. Let's at least slip Goff in. A reporter started to ask Goff yesterday, Scotty, about all these great superstars that the San Francisco 49ers have. Well, Goff said, we got some pretty good players, too. Here he is.
You guys got a lot of really good players, obviously, but maybe.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I said thank you.
You're welcome. Maybe not viewed though as the superstars like the 49ers have.
All right, never mind.
But I mean, guys like St. Brown and getting you.
Yep. St. Brown was first team All Pro, so.
Right.
So was Panay. Sorry, continue. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. But do you feel like this is a chance for more?
Yeah, I know what you're getting at. Yes, I do. I think we've got a ton of great players who maybe haven't had the national stage that up to this point that a lot of other guys have, and obviously they have a ton of good players as well.
It is amazing to me that we're going into an NFC Championship game and they're treating them like they're some kind of Pop Warner team. Like they have no talent and they have no chance at all against that crappy Niner team that I saw. And you can hear me, crappy. They got their ass pelted on Christmas. And I'll say it again. They should have lost last week to Green Bay. They got their dinner served, and it's coming again. Dessert's coming on Sunday night from the Detroit Lions. Get ready. They're coming.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early line
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks.
Ferrall coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time decisions.
You have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
in-game live.
Just
prime time.
Yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
that was
late
good betting.
night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on.
There's no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Rick Haro is our sports, business, and legal insider. He just told me that he wanted to meet my proctologist, but we'll talk about that on another show.
Another show.
Rick, first of all, an early happy birthday to you before I head to Vegas on the 4th, which I believe is your birthday. I want to get that in early because you're going to be hanging out with Gary Bettman having birthday cake instead of meeting me for dinner where I could buy you a birthday dinner at the Carver Steakhouse in Vegas. So I guess I'll take you out to dinner another night in Sin City when you finally show up for our big week of broadcasts, the 5th through the 9th at Radio Row in the Mandalay Bay where the fishes fly.
Wednesday night. I mean, why is it only Sunday night? I'll beat the Beanpot, beat the Celtics. I'll beat the NHL All-Star, which, by the way, the NHL All-Star, as we both agree, is the best All-Star game itself of any All-Star. They decided to do the 3-on-3, and it's a wonderful thing. And so it's just going to be cold up there like it has been all week, man. But that's okay. I can't wait to see you. It'll just be 2 days later.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being arrested at the airport with my heart implant, setting off all the electric monitors everywhere I go. And at the Super Bowl, I can't go through those electric machines with my fake heart. Anyway, let's talk about the death of Sports Illustrated. I have to say, when I was a kid, I'll be brief, I collected every single Sports Illustrated my entire life. And I had a collection that my father was not happy with all over the house. I had 5 million SIs. I thought it was the greatest sports magazine ever. And I think it's an utter catastrophe that it is going out of business.
Hey, mine are still upstairs in the attic. You would believe it. You've been here, so you understand what a mess this place is. But the bottom line is this is the maybe 20th interview that I've done with all of these sports business things, and everybody wants to reminisce about how Sports Illustrated was an important legacy in their lives. And now it's business like anything else. Meredith, the company, $110 million. They assign the rights to publish. The guys fail with their payments. They fail with the termination number. And now the guy that says he wants to save Sports Illustrated forever is the founder of 5 Hour Energy. That doesn't mean he's going to do it or not. I don't know whether he understands and appreciates the legacy that you and I and a million old geezers do. We all remember not only the Sports Illustrated brand, the paper it's printed on, the swimsuit issue. Then when it went digital, we gave it a break because it'll be digital. But now that's in jeopardy also.
Listen, I went to the Fan Man fight at Caesars with sitting next to Frank DeFord, and I literally, when I was there, I thought I was sitting next to Jesus. He had a fur coat on, and I thought he was the greatest writer. And there's a lot others that I could go through the litany of great pros, like writers from Sports Illustrated, the greatest sports writers of our time. I thought. We're at Sports Illustrated without a doubt. Arizona, the Wildcats. They said they were cutting all these team sports. Is that happening? They changed their mind?
Dodged a bullet. No, they didn't change their mind. There's still $55 million of unpaid obligation out there where the university kind of loaned them the dollars to get through COVID, but also to cover the 23 sports. And they have 6 more sports than the average Pac-12 team or whatever they're called these days. And the bottom line is that they tried to make sure they did whatever they could to save all of these other sports. Good for their athletic director, not there anymore. Jed Finch, by the way, borrowed a couple of extra months because his team, top 10, wins the Alamo Bowl, and the basketball team always in the top 8. So those two teams bring the money in to give the athletic department a breather to save those 23 sports, at least for now.
So Amazon Prime saved regional sports networks like Bally's and Diamond Sports Group because they've taken it over, or they're just paying their bills? What is it? Is it a takeover, a buyout? What?
To paraphrase Bill Clinton a little bit, we're not quite sure what is yet, but we have a partnership agreement, or at least an understanding, where DBH, which is a subsidiary, or the guys that run Bally's, the holding company, are agreeing to make sure that the Amazon streaming will increase the volume, not only for the shoulder programming, but for the rights fees to all of the teams. And it will probably be a Bally's carrying by Amazon. And look at what Amazon is doing. Peacock, Paramount, Amazon, all of the mega streaming opportunities are generating some entirely new capital, which will make people more creative. We're not sure what the details are yet, but it certainly allows them to live another day.
So state by state, I'll just start with this. North Carolina will permit sports betting right before the ACC conference tournament begins, and thus perfect timing for people to start a betting addiction like I have and rolling right into the NCAA tournament. What about all the other places? Missouri, Georgia. I mean, Georgia's backward ass. Will they ever figure out that people are making money on sports betting down there?
Well, there are certain advocates that are trying different things to get them done. George has put together a kind of a show and tell for representatives to understand the educational ease of putting the gambling opportunities together. And it may be working. Mississippi is trying to bundle everything. Alabama is trying to get started with mobile. And other states are looking at Minnesota, a deal with the Indian nations as well. It's either the casinos, the Indian nations, or the government. All of them are needed. And as soon as the states figure out that the next door neighbor is gobbling up what could be their money, we're going to push 40 and maybe even more very soon. The only one left in a few years is going to be Utah with their morals, and they're going to realize that they have no money to pay for the roads.
Is Sacramento the place the A's are going to end up playing because of TV rights in California that they have with NBC? Or is it Salt Lake, where, on top of this, I ask, their NBA owner now is clamoring for an NHL expansion team.
Yeah, and Salt Lake City also, as you see, is applying for a Major League Baseball expansion team with Nashville and other cities. So it's a complicated checkers chess kind of thing. Maybe Reno Aces, that stadium, or they may go to Vegas, the minor league stadium, and fry during the summer because there's no roof on it until the stadium gets built. They may decide, well, we'll lose a few years and we'll stay in Oakland while the stadium is being built, or share the stadium with the Giants in San Francisco. Listen, they got one more year on their lease, and it's going to take 3.5 more years to build the stadium. So it's an issue that can't be resolved today.
Is ESPN buying the NFL network and going to run it?
Well, it's a possibility. And in the Super Bowl meetings, you're going to see a lot of discussion about this with owners. That's not going to be public. But the Birdies have said that ESPN is trying to work out a huge deal with the NFL that could not only implicate the major football deals, but how about the colleges, the Power Fives? If there's money there, this may be an investment to pick off some of the top college football teams and create a super conference beyond the Power Five. Everybody says that it ain't so, but you better start watching.
What were the true Peacock numbers for the streaming playoff game?
about 23 million. They now have 30 million subscribers, which is a big deal for them, which is good. But more important to that, the age 19 to 34 and the 34 to 48, higher than anybody expected on the Peacock streaming. Came in second out of the 6 games. Why? Because it is streaming and it attracted a younger audience they predicted, and that's exactly what happened.
Duplessis won the title, the first South African to get a UFC champion. Do you think they fixed the fight to get rid of the homophobe that went on his rant against gays and trans, and that was why he lost? Because that guy's a piece of shack?
I don't know if they fixed it, but he is a piece of shack. And listen, I can't wait for UFC 300 in Vegas in April, because they certainly know how to create cards. This is going to be the card from heaven, whatever it's going to be, and the UFC continues to generate money. Netflix as well.
So that amateur that won the American Express, they didn't give him the money. They should have given you the money, and then we could have split the money. And now today, that kid announced he's going pro. His first one will be the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I think it'll be his first tournament. So, Rick, great stuff. I'll see you soon, my friend. Safe travels.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in the divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
Well, look at the Heisman Trophy.
The early line.
And what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news. Trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterback,
Ferrall coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time decisions.
I have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
in-game live.
Just
prime time.
Yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
late
better.
night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid
We did.
information. Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting, ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Adam Kaplan is our NFL insider, and there's so much to talk about. I want to go backwards, okay? I know you started with Harbaugh. We've talked about him for 2.5 hours. So, and I want to get your opinion on Jim Harbaugh because I think that's frankly, the best hire without a doubt. But take me back to what happened a half hour ago. Raheem Morris with the Falcons, and then let's go back to I think what Tepper did is insanity. I'm sorry. I'm not buying that guy is the reason Baker Mayfield and the Bucs went to the playoffs. Can you say Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield? I think they know how to play football. I'm not buying that. And then, I mean, by the hire, it's crazier. Callahan and then Harbaugh. Let's go backwards. Start with Raheem Morris. You like it. They need an offensive coach. Meanwhile, they hired a defensive coach.
Yeah, but see, here's Scott. Let's get to the Falcons. So they're going to hire Raheem Morris, who was once a head coach in his early 30s with the Buccaneers. He was too young, but this is a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator. He's tremendous, one of the best defensive coaches in the National Football League. Now, the key here is, and you touched on passing. It's fair. Their defense is not the problem. Their offense is. They don't have a quarterback. So his job will be to have a good coordinator who could develop a quarterback. And that's a big thing going forward once we see what the staff is going to look like. But Morris he's worked with, obviously, Sean McVay, won a title with him. He was with the Falcons earlier, by the way, in his career as a defensive passing game specialist, which meant he would break down the offensive tendencies from a football team, from the opponent. Really sharp guy, really ready to be head coach again. He was one of the top candidates around the National Football League. So that's what the Falcons are doing there. And they know him in that building. That was important. But the big thing to come out of this is not only Raheem getting that job, but Bill Belichick does not. You saw the reports a week ago. He's the favorite. He's probably going to get it. Well, he got his second interview, but he didn't get the head coaching job. So right now, Ferrall, we'll get the other situations around the National Football League, but there are only two openings. Washington, which my reporting for Pro Football Network, I felt it would be Ben Johnson. I still think it will be. It's not a lock, though. They're going to look at other candidates. And Seattle, who we all know this, Dan Quinn's the favorite. So Belichick right now looks to me like he'd be better off in television, where I think he'd be terrific. You and I were talking off the air about that. Bill right now probably will not be a head coach this year.
He get a cushy gig for millions if he were at CBS, NBC, Fox, cushy gig. Now, I don't know about Fox is all West Coast. I think that the CBS New York gig would be ideal. NBC, they do it out of New York. So I would look at either one of those. He is more entertaining talking about football and teaching football on television. When he talks about football, I've never actually heard anyone better in my life talk football. When I used to do top 10s at NFL Films, I've never seen anything like when that guy starts talking about football. It's like listening to John Wooden talk about basketball or Bob Knight. He was great as an analyst tonight. People could say whatever they want about him, but when he did a game, he taught you what was happening. I think Belichick would be unbelievable in the studio, not at games, but actually in the studio before games happen. Let's go to the other ones. I have to ask you about the Callahan, the Canales, and the Harbaugh.
All right, so Brian Callahan, who's going to be the head coach of the Titans, that thing's official. He was the non-play calling offensive coordinator for the Bengals. Now, what a lot of teams did, at this time, if you're looking at an offensive coach, you're looking at the McVay tree or the Zach Taylor tree, that West Coast offense, guys who develop quarterbacks. That's the scheme everybody thinks wins in the National Football League. McVay and Kyle Shanahan run it better than anyone. He comes from that tree. And right now, they're in a kind of a rebuild. Callahan's a guy, son of Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach, legendary offensive line coach for the Browns, who's, if you remember, Bill was the head coach of the Raiders, taking over for the traded John Gruden, who went to Tampa. So he comes from a football family. It's about developing Will Levis. Let's not sugarcoat it. That's exactly what this is about, developing that offense. But Rand Carthon, the general manager, has got to rebuild that roster. They have a terrible offensive line. They need to get younger wide receiver and more talented. And then Carthon's got to redo that defense. They just don't have enough talent defense. That's a total rebuild there. And Carthon and Callahan will have to do it together.
And so what's your thoughts finally on Harbaugh?
Oh, yeah, I could tell you talking to team source. Here's the thing. because, I don't work for the team, I wouldn't know this, but I thought this was interesting. One of the things that they've struggled with is get a foothold in the LA market. Yeah, I know you lived out there, so you know what it's like.
Right.
They share the same stadium with the Rams. I'm not saying it's like the Jets and Giants, but they don't have a national following. There were questions, would they spend the money? Well, they're spending the money. I've heard some details of what this contract could look like. They're paying them big time money. They're spending money, and they're getting after it because they want to get a hold of that market. Now, they've never been a national team. Even when you and I were growing up with Eric Coryell and Dan Fouts, okay? That was really, it's you and I were kids. That was really the last time I could remember in the early 80s when Dan Fouts was incredible, that I felt that the Chargers were a special team. They haven't been like that in nearly 40 years. Now you get Harbaugh in there, who's won everywhere. University of San Diego, Stanford, Michigan with a title. The Niners made the Super Bowl against his brother in 2012. So he makes them relevant in a big way, and Charger fans are going out of their minds. I know they have a small following, but it's going to be a much bigger following with Harbaugh there. He's different now. He's different, but all he does is win.
I think they should build a $2 billion stadium in San Diego and steal them back because they're like the redheaded stepchild in Los Angeles. Nobody even goes to their games. They have no fans. That's just all there is to it. That move has been a disaster for them. This is the only thing that's ever happened good to them is getting Jim Harbaugh. Let's face facts. Spanos has been a laughing stock of the NFL until Tepper came along. And now finally Spanos has done something big time, high profile hire, the best move he's ever made. I still think Mark Davis has never done a thing until he moved him to Vegas and made $6 billion. His father finally stopped turning in his grave after the kid finally pulled the right lever and moved him to Vegas for all that money he made. All right, let's talk about the title games. Let's start with Lions injuries.
Yeah, they're concerning because we'll break down the Ravens and Niners the Ravens game against the Chiefs tomorrow. But when you look at the Lions situation, so Jonah Jackson, their left guard's out with a knee injury. There's hope if they make it to the Super Bowl that he can play. They're down 2 tight ends for this game. That's why they signed Zach Ertz, who's now on the practice squad. So you look at that, and that hurts them when they go 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends and 2 wide receivers. Khalif Raymond probably won't play their punt returner and their 4th receiver. You worry about this stuff. For Frank Ragnow, this is insane. Their center, their all-pro center, he doesn't have 1, not 2, not 3, now 4 injuries. You worry about that, Ferrall. I know they've been a great story. There's no question about it. Now, Deebo Samuel got some work in today. Not a lot. He's got that shoulder injury. Remember, he had the hairline fracture earlier this season where he missed time. They don't know yet. They're hopeful. The fact that he got some work in today is great. They're going to see how he reacts tomorrow, see if he could get some work in on Friday, which, by the way, will be the last practice of the week. But the bottom line is just to get Deebo Samuel out there. You saw, Ferrall, how much Brock Purdy struggled without him. It's not just the pass game. It's the run game. It's a changeup on those jet sweeps and those reverses, those inside handoffs. But those short area passes where Samuel running after the catch is phenomenal. Not having him is a big deal. You saw how their offense struggled. They barely won that game, Ferrall. You know how bad they are trying to come back. What's that?
They shouldn't have won.
I know. Purdy didn't play well, man. Purdy didn't play well. So they absolutely need Deebo Samuel if they're going to beat those hot Lions.
I mean, when you look at the way they've played, Christmas night, the way they played, let's just say, speed it up to the Green Bay game. They hadn't played in 3 weeks. Before that, they didn't have any starters going. They lost Arizona. They had no business losing that game, but they did. They didn't care. Then they played Green Bay, and Green Bay had them right where they wanted them until Carlson shanked that kick. And then Love made one mistake in the game, the crossbody throw, Greenlaw pick, game over. They got out of there with the skin of their teeth. Now they're playing a team that scores a lot, and I won't deny they give up a lot through the air. But they have to be worried about this Detroit team, the way they've looked, the way Purdy has looked. You can't tell me Goff isn't playing better than Purdy.
Playing great. Oh, yeah. And by the way, they're a 7-point underdog. My personal line would have been 5 based on the way that they're playing. Now, you're right. When you go up against the Lions, you throw the football. That's not what the Niners are what we call a balanced team. That's why when they get out of their comfort zone, Ferrall, they struggle. They're not made to throw the ball a lot. That's not the way that they use Purdy. They manage Purdy. They don't want him throwing the ball a lot. That was concerning, that game. You're absolutely right last week. When you look at the Niners, though, look, they're dangerous. They're explosive. They've got a great defense. But you're right. I'm so glad you brought up Jared Goff. He's playing outstanding football. Ben Johnson's been phenomenal. Dan Campbell's got them playing well. Aaron Glenn, by the way, has done a great job as their D coordinator. Another, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, though. Another facet that's very underrated about them is they're excellent on the road. That's the thing. Like, people talk about
6-3 on the road.
They had great wins on the road. See, I don't buy that stuff. They can't win outside. It's just nonsense. It's not true. So they're real competitive. That's a game that is underrated. By the way, no rain expected. Thank goodness, as we saw last week in Santa Clara. But by the way, I pretty much overall all those games went over the total, depending, of course, which book you looked at last week.
So just so we're clear, the Niners are only 6-3 in Santa Clara this year. I don't think they've looked good since like Thanksgiving at all. So you can buy whatever you want. Last week on FerrallOnTheBench.com, we hit the Chiefs plus 2.5 and the Lions -6. Tomorrow, Adam will give Bust Your Cap and Yo Ass picks for the title games. And listen to this. The Chiefs and Ravens game is so good, he refused to talk about it today.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Ferrall
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
You
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they do.
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was good
Late
betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
Patient, didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
So BetMGM is doing this $5. If you bet $5, they're going to give you $158 instantaneously. Just use the code SG158. Download the BetMGM app on iOS or Android. Go to BetMGM.com. Sign up, deposit $5 in your new account. Bet the $5, standard odds price. Boom. You're going to get $158 instantaneously in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager. You're good to go at BetMGM.com. Download the app. You'll love it. And then you bet $5, you get $158. And that's just the beginning. I mean, these people are constantly coming up with ideas where they just give you money. And that's what I like about them. I don't even need to know them. I just know that just constantly they're giving people money. And it's just the most beautiful thing ever. It really is. It's like a blessing. It's like people just giving money to the church all the time into those baskets. Remember at Carver High when I got accused of stealing from the basket when I was the collection boy at the Catholic Church, and the crazy Italian lady accused me of stealing because I wore flip-flops and basketball clothes to do the collections. Little did she know that I used to get high with the priest. So he loved me, and he knew I'd never steal from him. And then screw her anyway. But you know how it is. It's like BetMGM just giving people money. Same thing. People giving money to the church for no reason.
Deal.
Same deal.
Absolutely. Same situation. That's it.
Remember you and I, we used to go into the church there by the studio at CBS, and we'd lay down $2 and light a candle for the Bills and Steelers. Same thing.
Yep. Same thing. Same thing as always. We do have a lot to do before we get out of here today. I got a lot of NBA tonight. I got hockey tonight. We got college rack tonight. But I want to do this first. You haven't been here since Bucks fired Adrian Griffin. Doc is, of course, going to be the replacement now. You kind of mentioned at the top what you thought of it, but that's one way, I guess. If you want to give yourself playoff success, just go hire Doc. That seems like nothing like getting fired, Scotty, when you're 30-13. That's one way to go. If you're Adrian Griffin.
Honestly, or hire a guy that's lost 10 game sevens and has lost more 3-2 leads than anyone in the history of the NBA, and they gave him $40 million. He must be sitting there drinking bullet bourbon, laughing at these suckers. I mean, he never wins. He just keeps making tons of money as a coach. It's unbelievable.
It really is. And the other thing I want to get to before we get to all the games, Suns crushed the Mavericks last night in Dallas, 132-109. Booker had 46, which has become like ho-hum for him lately.
They've won 7 straight.
Yes, they have. Luka Doncic last night, there was an incident with a fan. So he had a fan thrown out. Now, this fan, Scotty, was sitting, I guess, 2 rows behind the press on the one side of the field. So he's pretty on the one side of the court. So he's pretty close down there. Tim McMahon from ESPN reported that the comment that the fan made that got Luka upset was, quote, "Luka, you're tired. Get your ass on the treadmill." That's what the fan allegedly said to Luka. And then Luka got McMahon in the postgame afterwards to talk about it.
I don't know.
I was sitting 2 rows behind us.
All right, so it was the only thing that time he said something, the only thing?
That was what you reacted to.
Yeah, I was hearing the whole first half, right? Oh, you didn't hear anything?
He was definitely hollering.
Okay, there we go.
Acted.
Well, you put out something that was just the only thing, but...
What was the final straw? What was the issue? What was the thing that...
It's not the issue. I'm just saying you seems to be the first one to always put something bad about me.
Several of us actually tweeted that.
That's fine. It's all over.
Why did you ask for the fan to be ejected?
Because he was cursing me the whole first half, too.
Why didn't you ask for him to be ejected in the first half, then?
Because I never would eject a fan. They pay for tickets, but I had enough, It's a little bit of frustration.
You turned your head and looked over at him after he said that. That's what we saw.
Yeah, that's fine. Be the bad guy in the media, right? It's all right.
Feel like you were fairly portrayed to the media?
No.
Listen, I've always told you, he's a whiny crybaby B. That's his nickname for me. There is no one in the NBA that comes within 5 years of him crying to the refs. I have never in my life seen a guy that cries when he gets the call in the and one. He still complains. He complains when he gets the and one. He's complaining all the way to the point where they hand him the ball at the free throw line. He never stops crying in games. And I think he's absolutely the best guard in the NBA. When he plays, he's unstoppable, badass, scoring, body, size, handle, passing, step back, wing, dagger threes, clutch game buckets. He's phenomenal. But I've never in my life seen anyone cry more than this guy. This Slovenian, along the way, can you imagine how bad he was as a kid? I bet he cried a lot to his mommy because this guy cries like no other, and you can quote me on it. And that whole scene right there, how pathetic was that? He can't handle some guy telling him to get his fat ass on the treadmill. He is a fat ass. I mean, who cares if someone's cussing at you when you're making $40 million and you score 35 a night? I'd be like, every time I hit a bucket, I'd look at him and go, your mother's a hoe. Okay? So who cares what some fan thinks? Honestly, they do it all the time. They do the tap, the vein when they hit the three. They got all this. There's no one that can talk smack more than this guy, but he can't handle some fan giving him the business. Wow. The crybaby whiny bee.
I don't want to throw fan out. They play for tickets. They pay for tickets. I don't want to throw fan out.
But he still did
last
it.
night.
He still did.
Here we go. Big slate tonight. The Sixers, Scotty. We'll start with them. They're in Indiana against the Pacers. Of course, JoJo coming off the 70 burger the other night. Sixers minus 5.5, 239.5 the total.
It's just so dangerous. I can't lay that piece in Indy. I think they are tough. And they're going to be in that game. To me, that's a 2-3 point game, overtime. That's not a Philly goes in there and pushes Indy around. Not happening.
I agree with you. Not happening. The Wizards, a back-to-back for them, of course. They lost at home to the Timberwolves last night, but they did cover by the half, Scotty. Jazz are in there tonight, minus 7.5, 246.5, a big total, and I think they fly through it tonight. A lot of points.
Yeah, I still think Utah is too good for Washington. My feeling is Washington gave it all last night. Now they got to play again against a team that scores a lot. That spells doom for the Wizards. Give me the Jazz.
The Timberwolves, who, as we mentioned, they won in D.C., they get the back-to-back as well. They're in Brooklyn against the Nets. T-Wolves minus 3.5, 217.5 the total here.
I mean, if I can only tell you how bad the Nets suck. I mean, they've lost 20 of 25. They don't play in the fourth quarter. So all you have to do is show up close in the fourth, and you will win. Give me Minnie.
Boston into Miami tonight against the Heat. Heat lost at home last night, Scotty, the Grizzlies. Celtics minus 7.5, 224.5 is the total.
The Heat have lost 4 in a row. Good that Scary Terry's down there now. He's just another guy that can put it in the hole. They have one guy that stops players, and that's Bam. That's their problem. They got one guy that can stop somebody and nobody else. Give me the Celtics. They go into Miami, and they whack the Heat.
Really good one tonight at the Garden, Scotty. You got the defending champs, the Nuggets, in to play the Knicks. Nuggets at the end of this long road trip. Final stop for them before they go home. They're 2.5-point favorites now at the Garden. 222.5 is the total.
Welcome to the den of iniquity, the world's most famous. Brunson and the Knicks go to 12-2 since the deal with Toronto and upset the Nuggets.
I'm with you. I think this is a good spot for the Knicks tonight. I think you've heard Malone saying, too, that the guys are dying to get home. It's been a long road trip. Hopefully they'll show that tonight. The Kings are in Golden State against the Warriors. Kings minus 2.5, 243.5 is the total.
And what's the number? Just 2.5?
Down to 2.5, yes. Kings minus 2.5.
I'll take the Dubs in an upset at the Chase. And you heard me, an upset because the Dubs suck.
And finally, the Bulls and the Lakers getting together in Los Angeles tonight. Lakers minus 4.5, 227.5 the total.
Yeah, I think the Lakers suck. I'll take the Bulls outright to win the game.
Bulls outright at the Crypto, late night in Los Angeles. How about that? There you go. That's your NBA. Hockey!
Everybody loves hockey.
Quickly, everybody does love hockey. Patrick Waugh, only been on the job less than a week and already has to go to Montreal to see the Canadians, Scotty. Islanders minus 150 now on the road, plus 125 for the Habs, 6.5 the total.
Yeah, I have to go with the Islanders here. The number at 130, I don't think the Canadians are good enough. When I saw plus 130 that they were just going to win a game against the Islanders, I think Waugh goes in there with the Islanders. I don't care what the media thinks. I don't care they didn't have a morning skate. The dumbest thing that's ever occurred in life is the morning skate. What I would do every game is land, sleep, eat, play. I used to say to the Thrashers all the time, they'd say to me, how come you never go to the morning skate? I go, because you haven't won a game in 2 months.
Devils are in Carolina against the Hurricanes. Canes minus 160, plus 135 for the Devils, 6.5 the total. Back-to-back for Carolina too, Scotty. They were on the road last night in Boston.
Yeah, and I think they don't lose 2 in a row. So I'm going to take them at home to beat the Devils, minus a couple of their players that are now involved in sex abuse charges. How about the NHL with another sex scandal?
Right. Now, I'll give them this. This happened. This was before the NHL's watch. This is more Canada, Hockey Canada, their program, the junior program situation.
Too bad all the players are in the NHL.
They're in the NHL now, and I don't think you're going to see them in the NHL again. At least not any time in the foreseeable future.
How about the goalie of the Flyers? He was in on it too, allegedly. No wonder he needed a leave of absence. You always need a leave of absence when you're facing rape charges.
Speaking of the Flyers, they will be in Detroit tonight against the Red Wings. Red Wings minus 115, minus 105 for Philly, 6.5.
Yeah, with the Flyers, they have no goalie anymore. Give me Detroit running away.
Wild have the Predators in town in St. Paul at the XL, minus 120 for Minnesota. Even money for the Preds on the road, 6 flat the total.
Yeah, I like the Wild at home, but I did want to tell you, Carver High, real quick before I forget. That Philly-Detroit, I bet the over 6.5 at minus $112. And I did and I know you haven't done the Tampa-Arizona game yet, but I did that over 6 goals as well. And in that Flames game, I see it's on the board right there. Blue Jackets and Flames at Saddledome. I laid a goal and a half at plus 128 because the Blue Jackets are hairdryer city. Is that Boston's going to win in Ottawa. Dallas is going to smoke Anaheim and lay the goal and a half. And Edmonton is minus 6 Bills. You got to lay 2.5 against the Blackhawks. But they're going to cover it. They're going to win by 5 goals.
They minus 600. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I got like 30 seconds here. Good mid-major night in college rack. Vermont, UMass in the America East, SMU, North Texas, Grand Canyon, Stephen F. Austin. Arizona State is at Oregon tonight.
Give me that North Texas upset in Frisco. Do we have any other on the rack? Because I got a ton of them.
Yes.
I just want to
see. Look at
this.
I got more for you. Look at this late night action we got
St.
here.
Mary's
come
big.
on.
You can't give Long Beach State all those points. Gonzaga's going to beat San Francisco. Arizona's going to win in Corvallis.
There you go. College rack. Nikolai Højgaard, Scotty, leads at Torrey Pines as well out there for the Farmers.
Give me Campbell, Wilmington, lay it. Northridge, lay it against Bakersfield. And Bakersfield,
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
Well, look at the Heisman Trophy.
The early line.
And what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Ferrall,
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
I
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports
That
Rage
was good
Late
betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
Patient, didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, Ferrall finish time. Kayla Harrison is joining the UFC. She'll fight Holly Holm at UFC 300. There's no doubt she's tough, but that Holm might kick her face in. She'll finally fight someone that matters. Brewers signed Reese Hoskins to a 2-year deal worth $34 million. North Carolina online sports begins betting-wise right before the ACC tournament. Vince McMahon looks like he might be finished, accused of sex trafficking and sexual assault, which is rape where I come from. WWE Monday Night Raw will leave linear TV in 2025 for a Netflix deal. Former Spain coach Luis Rubiales to stand trial after kissing Spain's Jenny Hermoso on the lips after winning the World Cup. I have to say, she was kind of hot. But he's in big trouble now, mister. Colorado self-reporting recruiting violations to the NCAA under Deion Sanders. Who's prime now? Dana Carvey's son Dex died from fentanyl, ketamine, and coke. I actually prefer Dex from Daredevil on Marvel to Dana's son, God rest his soul. Jon Stewart to return to Daily Show on Monday nights. Thank God, because the other guy sucks. The English guy sucks. Honestly, no one watches. Dr. Drew warns of extremely worrisome marijuana study findings that link cannabis use to psychotic states. Dr. Drew used to say I had a cannabis problem when I worked with him at Westwood One. That was a long time ago, though, Dr. Drew. Thanks for all your advice. Married LA socialite was racing her alleged ex-MLB lover, allegedly Scott Erickson, when she killed 2 young brothers in a crash after, day drinking. Oh, Carver High loves the day drinking stories. When mommy goes out and has too many Pinot Grigios and then drives to pick up the kids at school around town with a Dewey on her breath. Australian teacher who moonlighted as an online orgasm pope, sex coach, gets fired by the school. Imagine that. That he got fired for that type of side hustle. CTD is next. Go to FerrallOnAbench.com. Jake Stigler. I'll see you tomorrow at 3 on Coast to Coast.